Freedom versus fidelity is always an interesting topic for debate. But when it comes to the Indian conditions, has the Supreme Court opened the gates for legalized adultery in India under the guise of personal liberty? Is what the topic of the discussion today. The Supreme Court of India, in a series of landmark rulings, has upheld personal liberty, especially regarding live-in relationships and adultery. But these decisions also raise concerns. Has the very freedom intended to protect individuals' choices inadvertently opened the door to legalized adultery? Is a question mark. And in doing so, have we begun to undermine the moral fabric of marriage and family values in India? Let us explore these questions from a comprehensive 360-degree perspective, considering legal, moral, and social dimensions. The Supreme Court's position is a move towards personal liberty in alignment with developed nations. The Supreme Court of India in recent years taken significant steps to protect individual rights, particularly in the realm of personal relationships. Decriminalization of adultery, Joseph Shine versus Union of India 2018. The court struck down Section 497 of the Indian Penal Code, which criminalized adultery, asserting that it was archaic and violated the dignity of individuals. The court held that personal choices between consenting adults are beyond the realm of criminal law, even in the context of extramarital relationships. The court emphasized the need for gender equality, arguing that adultery as a crime treated women as the property of their husbands. And then Supreme Court recognized live-in relationships in several rulings such as Khushbu versus Kaniyammal 2010 and Indra Sharma versus V.V.L.N. Sastry 2013. The Supreme Court has recognized the legitimacy of live-in relationships. The court ruled that adults who choose to live together outside the institution of marriage are exercising their fundamental right to personal liberty under Article 21 of the Constitution. It further provided legal protection to women in live-in relationships under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. These rulings highlight the court's effort to move towards a progressive interpretation of individual rights. They seek to align India with global standards of personal freedom, ensuring that consensual relationships are respected, whether they are formal marriages or not. But here the crux arises in terms of freedom versus fidelity. Though it's a provocative question, but here lies the thrust of the debate and the crux of the debate. In protecting personal liberty, has the Supreme Court inadvertently given a green light to legalized adultery under the guise of live-in relationships? Has the focus on individual rights come at the expense of commitment in marriage? Freedom is a cherished value guaranteed to every citizen by the Constitution. The right to make personal choices in relationships without state interference is a fundamental to a democratic society. But fidelity, on the other hand, has been the cornerstone of marital relationships. For centuries, marriage as an institution is built on trust, commitment, and exclusivity. Adultery, though decriminalized, remains a moral transgression for many. By allowing live-in relationships, are we, in effect, providing a legitimate path for extramarital affairs to thrive without consequences? Can these relationships, free from the legal obligations of marriage, coexist with traditional expectations of fidelity? This question invites us to examine whether legal freedom can undermine the moral foundations of the marriage existing in India. Now let's look at the aspect of legal freedom and moral consequences. While the law is meant to protect individual rights, the ethical and social consequences of these decisions are profound. Adultery may no longer be a crime, but its impact on marriage, family values, and societal perceptions cannot be ignored. Because if it is allowed the same way as it is currently, there will be a moral decay in the institution of marriage. For many, marriage is more than a contractual arrangement. It is a moral commitment between two people to be exclusive and loyal. The decriminalization of adultery and the recognition of live-in relationships challenge the very essence of monogamy. If married individual is allowed to legitimately engage in a live-in relationship, what message does this send to the society? Is marriage becoming a legal formality that exists merely for rights and entitlements, while individuals are free to pursue other relationships without consequences? Second, impact on families and children. Families are the cornerstone of society. When trust and loyalty are compromised within a marriage, it is not just the couple that suffers. Children and extended family are also affected. Children raised in homes where extramarital relationships are normalized or where parents engage in live-in arrangements outside marriage may struggle with emotional confusion and instability. They may question the very values of commitment and fidelity that have traditionally been passed down through generations in India. Then again, the issue arises on the part of fidelity and endangered virtue. In modern world, where personal happiness is often prioritized, we must ask, is fidelity becoming an endangered virtue? The Supreme Court's rulings empower individuals to pursue relationships that bring them emotional and physical fulfillment. But should this freedom come at the cost of breaking commitments made in marriage? Fidelity is not just about sexual exclusivity. It is about trust, emotional support, and the bond of partnership that marriage represents. In a time when the legal system supports personal liberty, the importance of fidelity must still be upheld as an ethical ideal. If adultery is no longer a crime and live-in relationships are legitimate, then what recourse do spouses have when their partner engages in a relationship outside the marriage? The divorce courts may offer a solution, but the emotional damage caused by the breakdown of trust can be irreparable. In that context, what's the road ahead? That's where we need to have a balanced approach. In this debate, we are faced with the age-old tension between freedom and responsibility. Personal freedom is undoubtedly important, but it must be exercised with responsibility. Live-in relationships and the decriminalization of adultery are not calls for moral disregard. They are legal decisions that respect the right to choose. However, fidelity in marriage remains a social and moral necessity. It is the glue that holds families together, instills values in children, and maintains the stability of society. The solution lies in balance. Freedom should not be seen as license for unrestrained behavior. Instead, individuals must approach their rights with a sense of duty and respect for the commitments they have made in their marriages. To conclude, I would like to give a call for righteous thought given the kind of the conflict that the Supreme Court verdict has created within our Indian traditional society. I feel a call for righteous thought is the right way to move forward. Of course, Supreme Court of India has indeed expanded the scope of personal liberty by borrowing the values and personal liberty from Western countries. But with this freedom comes the moral responsibility of self-regulation. While live-in relationships are now legitimate according to the Supreme Court and adultery is decriminalized by Supreme Court, the institution of marriage must still be safeguarded through fidelity and honor. We as a society must encourage individuals to be righteous in their thoughts and actions, especially in the context of relationships. The legal system cannot dictate moral behavior, but it can inspire us to be mindful of the commitments we make. As we move forward, let us uphold the freedoms we cherish, but also protect the fidelity that binds us together in marriage and family life. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.